Hey guys, welcome to another commentary done by Diggity. Upper left hand corner, we got Aegis starting as the pink Zerg. Bottom right corner, we have Hedgick starting as the yellow Zerg. This is on Invader, and it is BSL 17, round of 32, Group G final match. Best of 3, Hedgick is currently up a game, and being that it is a two-player map and Overlords have equal amount of time to spot each other, that usually means, so as far as the Zerg versus Zerg MMR variants, and victory win rates. So when you have the 3-player and 4-player maps, I feel like that variance percentage ends up increasing, but when it comes to 2-player maps, that variance dramatically drops. 2-player ZVZ, it drops it to where the more skilled player, the higher MMR player more often wins, and I believe Hedgick is the higher MMR player between these two, although Age is putting up a really good fight game 1 and had opportunities to win. I think he just got, I think it was one of those things, I think I saw this with Urbmon as well, versus Striker, to do a callback to the New York City land, where he had an advantage and then just got overexcited. Looks like the turn rate working well for both players and they're excited about it, especially for ZVZ, that's so important. But the chat is distracting me slightly. Glad to see their manner to one another. Overlord produced from both sides, by the way. But anyway, we saw it in New York land. That was what I was going to comment, where there was, in a tournament situation, high pressure. You have that slight advantage, and then there's almost like that panic where it's like, I got to close it out. And then where if it was just a ladder game and played normally, that would have been a win more often than not. Looks like we're seeing in-base hatchery again from Aegis. This has played well for him up to this stage. I have a feeling, though, this time the overpool into gas for Hedgick is going to play a lot better, simply because it's 2-player. He's going to know where to send those initial Zerglings, and I think he's going to have decent response as far as a follow-up, and he's going to have basically access to that natural expansion, that gas, a lot earlier. Looks like he's already followed that up with a low base hatchery. I will say this is rampless, or you have a ramp here but not a ramp to the north, depending on Zergling pathing from Aegis, which means superior amount of Zerglings, which he will have for a bit of time initially, could be beneficial. The Zerglings are going to come out later, though, so he needs to find an open field battle where he can swarm, end up with a superior Zergling count, and play it out. And we are also going to see faster Zergling speed for Hedgick, so that's going to be another advantage. One possibility from Aegis, which I'm going to discount, is that he skips Zergling speed despite going for the in-base hatchery. So he's got the Zergling, so he's going to have the 8 Zerglings produced. We have the Zerglings making their way. I believe Aegis has spotted them incoming. Overlord's not there, seeing the opposite side, but I think seeing the lack of hatchery, Hedgick has to presume that it was either a overpool or 9-pool into Sunken Colony and quick layer, or this exact build. And so the Zergling's flooding forward. He sees the amount of Zerglings there at the front. Now he's outnumbered. Zergling speed still working for Aegis. He might want to wait interior to base for that to complete. Layer morphing on both ends. Slight edge there for Hedgick. But again, this is going to be the critical bit. He's got that lower base natural expansion. Aegis trying to position his Overlord so he can keep an eye on the Zerglings as they're produced. That will be critical. Overlord making its way up, so Hedgick is going to see that he's going to have that faster layer, and if he can get, already has a drone mining at the natural, which is going to give him that slight mineral edge. And it's just the matter of degrees that can play it, although a Zergling taking a massive damage there to start. A lot of Zerglings out here for Aegis, and I don't know that Hedgick, I'm not sure if Hedgick kept an eye on the Zergling count back here or not. Aegis, the other problem for Aegis is Hedgick can always retreat, and as long as he pulls off 2 Zerglings, might even just sneak 2 Zerglings out to the south. Instead, it looks like he's going to drop a creep colony at the natural expansion. Aegis actually up a drone right this second. Hedgick re-engaging to go ahead and buy himself some time to get sufficient defenses down on the ground. Spire already building. We have no Spire opposite side from Aegis, so he wants to win it on the Zergling flood. And Hedgick with a much better concavity right that second, and the Sunken Colony finish, so Aegis going to have to back up. And that was Zergling cancels now from Hedgick, so he can have additional minerals to go ahead and end up with Mutalisks out in the air. So it looks like Aegis is going to have one more attempt at this, with a Zergling flood. He's got 3 supply lead, which means he's got a 6 Zergling advantage overall. But there's that Sunken Colony, which very rapidly, especially if it's in the rear lines, can provide defense. That Extractor immediately being dropped, natural expansion. Here comes Aegis. Looks like he has additionally some superior spread to the south, but he's still taking that Sunken Colony damage behind all of this. Hedgick losing the Zerglings overall, but the follow-up Zerglings are going to send Aegis home, and now that was a lot of Zerglings expended. He's down gas. That Spire's going to finish, and Mutalisks are going to be out in the air in not too long. And that second gas is online. Let's see how long it takes Hedgick to... Orty is going to have a drone mining there, which is going to put him up 1 drone worth of gas, which turns into additional Mutalisks over the long term. So the clock is ticking for Aegis. Additionally, we've got a Scourge being 2 Scourge being built alongside Aegis building 3 Mutalisks overall. Aegis pushing in those Zerglings, trying to work on that Sunken Colony as well as the Zerglings on the ground, still ending up with an inferior amount of troops on the ground, able to wipe out the Sunken Colony at the very least. But now we got a 2 supply lead for Hedgick, and those Scourge are in flight, should be able to take out at least an Overlord. Some Mutalisks spawning opposite side. Is Aegis able to... Looks like they're going to skip looking for a Mutalisk kill. Neither of them land, actually. So now, last second sacrificing into the Overlord. That's going to allow Hedgick to put Aegis in the red. That was nice micro right there. Last second moving them in to make them valuable, when he realized he wasn't going to get a Mutalisk kit. Aegis now doing something I've seen him do quite a few times, where I don't think he's out of this per se. He's definitely at a disadvantage, but not out of this. And it looks like he's going to try to force a fight at the natural expansion, which means he's going to go 4 Mutalisks versus 4 at a closer reinforcement point, and there's Scourge alongside to micro against this. So the Scourge landing, and now it's going to be 5 versus 4? Yeah, 5 versus 4, but one of them heavily damaged. Hedgick, recognizing he's got the lead, just going to go ahead and pull back. I'm not sure that Aegis really needed to force that. He still hasn't moved down to... It looks like he's still just trying to pour out units to get some additional air out. Hasn't snuck any drones in the meantime. It's the other problem with Zerg versus Zerg is you gotta... But it looks like he is going to find an Overlord at the 3 o'clock location. If you can find the Overlords at the 6 o'clock, might be an advantage overall. That puts Hedgick in the red. The Scourge not able to land, but now they're able to, and that's going to be some sacrificial Mutalisks top right. And and now some Scourge moving in bottom right. They're a little bit out of position. They're looking to re-engage, but that's able to create a little bit of separation there as Hedgick's in the red. But I don't see the Mutalisks making their way to the natural expansion nor the main to capitalize. It looks like just one, yeah. I don't think this is sufficient. Hedgick just needs to get that Overlord count back up, and he can just use the larva he's got. That's a lot of Scourge. This is kind of an emergency recovery maneuver for Aegis. Looks like one of them got picked out to the north, but this is still a supply lead. Aegis making a game of it. However, Scourge continually getting picked off, and that's larva and gas that are going into the dumpster. A counter Zergling flood for Aegis, so he's going to try to use the Scourge to push the Mutalisks back and allow the Zerglings to engage underneath. So diving in doesn't look like it's going to be sufficient. The Zerglings a little bit spread out. The Mutalisks going to be able to clean this up fairly easily. And now Aegis doesn't... That was a lot of resources expended for very little return. Zerglings trying to get some drone kills, and it looks like they're not even going to get a drone kill in the main. Although counterattack at the natural, able to get a few drone kills. The Zergling's going to get cleaned up, and this is now a very strong air fleet for Hedgick that I do not think it can be repelled. Hedgick waiting just in case some Zerglings are making their way back across. He's got pretty decent vision in between that he can maintain with that air fleet. A few Zerglings being spotted. Going to be intercepted, trying to retreat up to the north. More Mutalisks being created in between. It looks like some Zerglings, actually just 4 Zerglings being built. Accidental self-attack there. But this is double the supply from Hedgick. He can just ignore those Zerglings. Yeah, attack them, do a little bit of damage, and just walk right into the main. And even with potential Scourge spawning here, Aegis, it is inevitable. Drones getting picked off the gas line. Hedgick continuing to microwave, but you can see the splash still landing on the drones and able to pick some drones off. And the Mutalisk count dwindling for Aegis. That should be GG right there, but it is the tournament situation now. He's just going to GG it. GG back direction from Hedgick. That is going to be it for this round. Going to move on to Group H, and then we'll be on to the round 16. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for listening.